What's happening? Benton here. We in the thick of the traffic now on I-75 in Ohio, headed down to Knoxville, Tennessee. I guess we pick up 71 south in about 35 miles. And it took a long ass time for me to schedule this stream and get it going. Dealing with traffic, watching people insist on slow merging only to finally figure out that they're going to have to get in front of my big rig, and then they just blast right off into early rush hour and go like 80. It's like, hey, maybe we could skip the part where we try to slow old Benton down. UPS is driving shitty this morning. Keeps coming over in my lane for some reason. Keep that in your lane there, partner. Hell, I got a tendency to drift off to the right also, but I know how to keep it in my lane when I need to. That was excessive. UPS drivers usually a little bit better than that. Might have something going on. Yeah, I'd love to. We had to pass UPS there. Now we're on a downhill, and the truck wants to cruise in E for economy. I don't know. What am I supposed to do? Reduce speed. Trying to find my groove so I can chill, but they're not letting me have it. We got almost 5 hours to Knoxville, so just this, I think the year of this truck, surely they don't program these trucks like this anymore. I mean, this is obscene. It's just beyond anything anybody could imagine how often it shifts into neutral. It won't afford me a moment's peace. So bear with me, folks. We'll get on to some sort of topic, perhaps. Maybe starting to thin out a little bit now, perhaps. Perhaps not. Yeah, I thought we did pretty good on that first stream this morning. Trying to think in my mind what if anything did I leave out? Of course, we had the Deliverance on stream, expelling through the throat chakra by coughing, right? Coughing out uh, whatever that was, perhaps a spirit or spirits of the unclean demonic variety, perhaps. It was something, that's for sure. Happy to be shed of it. Yeah, this is just traffic just will not give up. As soon as I think it's over, there's more. Surely now we're seeing rest area signs. That's got to be a sign, right? That we're leaving civilization. But I believe I've gotten enough of a head start on the work of the day that, not that I'm in a hurry anyway, but just chill out in the slow lane. Although now there's a box truck slowing down, slowing down, slowing down, slowing down. How much am I willing to slow down? There goes UPS. So I guess we'll just slow down. Not getting beside that fellow again. He's learned us good. Unless that's a different one. He's drifting. That's him. Drifting over to the right. Now, of course, they're leaving the rest area. So now we have to jump over. So they're leaving the rest area. Slow speed. I think we're out of it, and we are in the thick of it. Come on now. Hard to commence the discourse still. And I wonder how long till Tennessee. I do need some fuel at some point, but we got plenty for now. Not supposed to fuel in Ohio. Or do we go through what? I guess we go through Kentucky. I don't even. Knoxville. I don't know. Maybe we go through Virginia. Is Ohio border Tennessee? I guess I'd have to look at the map. Either way, wherever we're going. Yeah, and just with my own recent, revelations, the revolution, self-realization, knowledge of self, and just starkly aware now of how off track these bozos are in the so-called truth community. Just wrong, just incorrect. But then the years of looping and the loop into problem solving, and showing off the inability to discuss certain topics of philosophy, spirituality, and all of this. To what end? Right? To no effect. Well, that's the thing, Grant. That's what the live streams are about. It's about if a person wants to, right? Because I can't do anything about the walk or the plight of any individual other than myself. So it's interesting because someone may think that they're telling a joke. Again, this is the gallows humor, right? This is the gallows humor that results from being too identified, actually more correctly, by not correctly identifying within the individual assuming that individuals other than myself have an essence that is one with the most super intelligent force of love possible at the highest level. So deliverance is only possible in a where and a how. And that also comes with a where not and a how not, right? So early on in my practices, strategically, there was a lot of identifying areas in which I did not have power and just avoid directing efforts. So here's the where, avoid, or the where not rather, avoid directing efforts to the where not. So when someone, is cheekily making a gallows humor joke of deliver me, Benton, right, in the chat, well, that's someone who is reinforcing that if given a mission or a goal to achieve a specific result of self-realization or true knowledge of self, they're thus proving and reinforcing they don't know where to do that and they don't know how to do that. Whereas Benton knows the answers to both of those questions. And what Benton says is, I would recommend, if asked, start with the where is it not and the how is it not. Start there, right? Figure out where isn't that thing and where and how to not get to the thing, or more correctly, what will keep me away from the thing. So when I talk about identifying properly within myself, where I've come to the realization, the true knowledge of self, that my essence is one with the most super intelligent force of love possible at the highest level, I can't ever know if that's the case for any of you individuals. I suspect that to be the case. I will never know. And if you told me, it would still be, I would be taking your word for it, or using my own observations of how you live. How you live, meaning we know the tree by the fruit. By the way, that's judging. I can't assess the fruit unless I judge the fruit. Isn't that interesting? So this realm of death and destruction teaches us not to judge. Meanwhile, judge means to pass sentence on, and it also means to form an opinion on. They're going to slow merge me. They're going to slow merge me. Why are you slow merging me? Why? They figured it out. But if not for the air horn, I feel like they would have just slowed me down to about 55. And that's what this realm is, by the way. The realm of death and destruction, it is designed to make sure that if it always has to be if your essence is one with the most super intelligent force of love possible at the highest level, the way this realm of death and destruction perpetuates itself and, quote, wins spiritually is in every moment that you express your creative force even one iota short of birthing your essence. Again, if your essence is, as mine is, one with the most super intelligent force of love possible, any moment that I'm not bringing that essence via manifested truth, birthing something new into the realm, because our creative force never lies dormant. And again, I'm guessing, but I'm guessing based on how mine works, seemingly. Yeah, I'm trying to get out of your way, sir. See this traffic, don't you? What's with the impatience? Meanwhile, I'm pretty sure that fast lane's been open the whole time there, Bubba. Oh, but it's scary to pass on the left. We might get a ticket. We're trying to stay in any lane but that fast lane. 4 lanes. You can be in 3 of them, but not that 4th one, right? That's called get a ticket. Meanwhile, I'm pretty sure you can get a ticket in any one of these lanes. Yeah, I'd love to slow down to it. The traffic's not really allowing me to at this time. We got a bunch of exit onlys. We got to make sure we don't get stuck in the exit onlys up here. We we lose if we scrub off too much speed, and then we have to try to speed up to get out of the exit only. We might find ourselves stuck like Chuck. Uh, I guess some truckers probably memorize all the lanes in all the cities. I don't even attempt that, so I have no fucking idea what lanes are going to end up ahead. So just by again, shout out to EBT, and it is it's not for me to criticize him as a human. It's that he's actually doing me and perhaps the audience a favor by approaching these topics backwards, backwards, and just wrong. And that's instructive because that shows how the human psychology being designed by the system, installed via the system, and all of that to serve the system at the detriment, as what I would consider to be the detriment of the individual, assuming that the individual's true essence or nature is one with the most super intelligent force of love possible at the highest level. And this realm's mission is to, by any means necessary, preclude every single one of those individuals with that potential to get them to express their nature or essence through their creative force as rarely as possible, if ever. Right. That is the design, purpose, and function of the psychology via the system. And like it or not, we are products of the system. Our psychologies are products of the system. That's just how it is. Don't kill the messenger. I didn't make it that way. Yeah, I'd love to, Toots. We're still trapped in traffic. We're gonna speed for however long this lasts, which may be for all I know, it's the whole way there. Could be 4.5 hours of this. I don't fucking know. Of course, at some point, rush hour will be over and we can settle down. This is still early rush hour, getting into rush hour, 6 a.m. local time. Early rush into regular rush, in which everybody's go, 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 go to that place they don't want to go to today. Because everything that's not the most super intelligent force of love possible at the highest level that exists in this realm is business, is a business. It's not possible to name anything other than the most super intelligent force of love possible at the highest level that's in this realm and is not business or a business or involved in business. How about that? We're going to risk it for the biscuit. We're actually going to get in the right lane. And I hope it doesn't end. Because now we're speeding. It's 55. Now we're really speeding. But then UPS is going to catch us again and creep up on us and put his trailer in our lane. So we need to avoid that possibly. So bear with me while I monitor the situation in my mirrors. That might have been a leftover construction zone 55. No, this next sign says 55 also. But the computer or the lady thinks it's 65 and my GPS thinks it's 65. I think maybe they just did road construction and just left the 55 up, possibly. See, this says, before I made you in your mother's womb, I knew you, Jeremiah 1:5. Yeah, that's maybe true. And it's got a picture of a depiction of Christ, but then something about gnashing of teeth and low here and low there. And, we did all this in your name. And why, what's going on here? The separating of the wheat and the tares, and Christ saying, well, I never knew you. Which is it, Bible? I guess it's both. Of course, the child in the womb would be spiritually perfect, presumably. Innocent and perfect. Yep, there it is. The lane ends. There it is. Exit only. Reduce speed. There's the dreaded Union back there. Union building. The dreaded Union. Can't have those, right? Because they become corrupt. Yeah, guess what? So does every other system of man. All of them. Name a system of man, it's corrupt. Any of them. 11 miles to 71. I'm hoping that one's a little less heavily trafficked this time of the morning. They are not letting me chill, that's for sure. It's not going to happen. Yeah. Well, and since we're in America, the road is absolutely fucked, of course. That's a given pretty much everywhere. Here's an opening to maybe acquire the slow lane. Chill. We'll see how long this lasts. Probably not long. Yeah, here come the slow mergers immediately. Immediate sight of the slow merger. Thankfully, they're far enough away. Of course, now the entire lane is slowed down from slow merging. Of course, they're going to go 80 now. Now, successfully having slowed down the slow lane, they're going to go 80. Mission accomplished. Which is, I would say, the argument for just going motherfucking 80 from the beginning. And the lane's 80. Maybe not. Oh, no. Good. It says next exit. We'll keep right. Okay. Just won't let your boy get comfortable this morning. Oh, shit. I think I'm about to miss my exit. Oh, no, wait. 8 miles. Okay. I exit in 8 miles. Yeah, good deal. So it's interesting, again, back to this concept of proper identification and the true grasping of these various concepts, as opposed to, what I did myself for many, many years, until reaching the recent level. Although my discourse has certainly improved over time, my grasp of a lot of these concepts has improved. But now, now I'm faced with the comprehension of just how foolish most of the people in the so-called truth community that talk about these topics are, right? Even someone like Enslaved by Truth, that I do respect, in certain ways, his knowledge and understanding of certain topics, but he's proving himself to be quite the bozo. But that's okay, because I myself, you know, prove myself to be quite the bozo. I'm certain, right? What really, realistically, what can I expect from most of these individuals? Really, part of this is my expectations are too high, because I am an ardent believer in the transcendent potential of any individual whose true nature or essence is one with the most super intelligent force of love possible at the highest level. So really, and I should have ultimate optimism in their ability to overcome themselves and to get out of their own ways enough to, with greater and greater frequency, express that nature via their creative force that never lies dormant. And again, the gallows humor of the live chat, or the so-called truther, right? Even some of the content creators. Well, now I got to exit 5 miles, so there's really no point in even getting in the slow lane. I'm slowing down the truck. Sorry about that, Bubba. My apologies, sir. But yeah, and the level of consciousness that believes that to be a humorous, way to sort of ingratiate oneself and kind of have a moment of levity and humor, right? Which to me would prove that that person lacks some very fundamental basic understandings, which is okay, as long as, consistent with the writings of Krishnamurti, as long as they understand that that's where they are in the evolution, or the potential revolution, right? Because especially in the earlier stream, there was a lot of revolutionary material. And, as humans, I think we can all acknowledge that there's something within us at a spiritual level that resonates with the idea of a revolution or revolutionary action, right? Or, the end product of revolt, right? The upheaval, the overturning, right? All of that certainly seems to appeal to humanity's rebellious nature. But then the system has installed psychology whereby virtually all individuals in the realm, when faced with the horrors, the day-to-day horrors on the ground in this heaven or hell realm, presently manifesting as a hell realm, this idea that, okay, well, that's true, Benton, but, the moment things get, quote, bad enough, then the people will rise up, take their power back, which implies they had the power in the first place, take their power back and fix this place. Again, how? Through revolution, right? Well, why would individuals who won't, who won't do that revolution inside themselves, right? Why would those individuals do that externally on a team? You know, what are you doing, sir? You're going whatever You're going whatever speed I'm going. Now he's definitely on his phone texting his side piece. See where they're going to meet up later. Maybe have an early meeting at the Starbucks, perhaps. He's all over the motherfucking road. I'm just trying to take my exit. That's all I'm worried about, lady. I got one concern, making sure we get out of this mess on the correct road. And we're not on it right now. We're trying to go north. I need to go south. Good thing I double checked, right? But I listened to my GPS, which told me to veer left. The GPS is bad about that. Sometimes it will say veer left, but that's not the case. It's a good thing I'm on the ball here. It's not a perfect technology, but it's way better than trying to just know all of this. Must be, where are we? Cincinnati, I guess? Yeah, I think so. Yeah, this must be Cincinnati. Yep. And then, and I think a mechanism of the humor, the gallows humor, is is to not understand that you're not above it all, right? That really nobody's above it all. But then, these communication styles where people will sort of just place themselves above it all, like they are. And again, a lot of this is absolutely born out of the way that we're marketed to and advertised, via advertising. It's to allow the individual to assume this exalted position, this lofty position, and then that's used as that once the person buys into that psychologically at the level of their self-image, that's actually used as a way to continue to market products and services. So it seems to me like the individual then, in their own confusion, will just go ahead and adopt the exalted position, right? Such that they're in my live chats saying, "Deliver me, Benton," which is also, in a way, reflective of just a sick tendency towards degradation and decadence and deprivation, right? Because it's got kind of an icky, dirty feel to it, like almost like "Spank me, Daddy," "Deliver me, Benton," "Spank me, Daddy," right? It's kind of the same. It's kind of the same thing, right? So it's sort of an acknowledgement also simultaneously of like, we are in this the place of all things depraved, decadent, degenerate, so when in Rome, right? When in Rome, you know. But what happens when one transcends Rome? What then? As I have, like, what am I left to do? I no longer have the option of your gallows humor. Like, I can no longer find the mirth in that. To me, it's just sad and pathetic, right? But 15, 20 years ago, I'd have been right there chuckling along with you. But then, it's probably not a coincidence, and I don't believe in coincidence anyway, but, can it be a coincidence that folks are, and again, it's no highfalutin honor, but the fact that I am the one speaking, and who knows, again, there's an acknowledgement, maybe I'm not even being listened to. Maybe this has been identified as a channel where we can go there, turn the volume down, and maybe some of our friends will be around and we can have a chat with them. It's a chat room at that level, right? It just becomes a chat room. Yeah, I get that. I understand. I get it. I also get that I need to brush my teeth. Bear with me, folks, if you would. It's about that time. As we creep up this hill at 41, now 40 with the flashers on. This is a motherfucker, that's for sure, this hill. Right. There's your infrastructure, folks. I don't know if y'all could hear that, but there's your infrastructure. Greatest country on earth, right? Greatest country in the history of humanity. Well, it must be really fucking good in other ways to make up for how horrible these roads are.
Reduce speed.
More lanes ending, but that's a new lane, so I don't have to worry about that.
Reduce speed.
Exit only.
Reduce speed. Reduce speed.
Yeah, here's one. Here's one. 275 east-west, exit only. Get your ass over. Ohio definitely seems to be doing okay economically, from what I've seen, compared to some other areas of the country, at least. Ohio. See, that's and it's not to pick on the person who made the joke about deliver me, Benton. It's it makes me wonder. Well, number one, it makes me realize that the bulk of the audience simply doesn't understand the material, right? Because this is the advanced course, as I've noted before. So the bulk of the audience does not have a grasp of the material that I covered here, which is okay because, again, if those individuals, are endowed with the if their essence or spirit or soul is one with the most super intelligent force of love possible at the highest level, at least the potential exists that they will pull their heads out of their asses and begin the long, what in my experience has been the long, arduous process, moment by moment, day by day, week by week, month by month, year by year of crawling ever closer towards, something that I finally experienced in the last couple of weeks, which is known as self-realization. And that also has a dictionary definition. You could Google it if one was so inclined, self-realization. And then what could also be referred to as true knowledge of self, which is, it's not enough to hear me tell you that, and this is probably why, it's probably part of the reason why it's so helpful to approach it with if, right? Because until whether the being is me or you or any other being, until that discrete being comes to know within themselves that that is their nature, not by being told, not by having their psychology, program, not by, you know, uh, believing that they're serving that sort of ideal, but by actual experiential within themselves, having those experiences. So what are the processes so the where is inside, right? That's what we've talked about is, and I said, well, let's start where isn't it? Well, it's not outside of me. It exists nowhere outside of me in this realm. Because even if it exists within you, the listener, I can't access that part of you. I do not, I will never have direct access to that thing, thankfully, by the way. And that's what I mean when I say this is a wholly individual experience spiritually. That's an acknowledgement that no matter what happens, I will never have direct knowledge of yourself. And many, if not the vast majority of all individuals, will never have knowledge of themselves. Perhaps the potential always exists, right? Perhaps. But then my only potential would be to experience that within myself. So I would say the basic level is to at least be able to see where it isn't possible, meaning joining a team with other people, because that's external to the being, right? Any group that's formed involving any other individuals other than me creates a group where it's not possible to find what I'm speaking of. So surprise, surprise, the psychology of the system, by the system, for the system, directs all efforts on the part of the individual to where they cannot bear fruit. I think we're in Kentucky now. Yeah, I believe we are. You start looking for the loads before I accidentally pass it up. Get some fuel. Although I guess Tennessee will have loves too. Do I want to fuel right now at peak time of the morning? Probably not. Hang on, give me a second. I want to see where I'm going and where there's a loves. If there's one, there's a pilot. There's a pilot. See, I'm not seeing no love. Not a one. Man, that's crazy. I'm looking on this. This might be the last one up here. Wow. There's one. Okay. Let's see. How far away is this bad boy? $150 miles. 9 a.m. That'll work. That'll work. And I'm fully, again, this knowledge of self, you know, at the end of the day, or in practice, it helps me to think through all of these concepts, and it actually benefits me to do it in the form of this discourse, because as scatterbrained and as jumping around from topic to topic as I can be, this is still more focused, so simply based on speaking it aloud, right? And if I'm going to speak it aloud on my own time, I might as well speak it aloud into the internet, right? Might as well. And if folks want to listen, if they have ears, right, let them hear. If they have ears, let them hear. Which is why, again, the bulk of the audience demonstrates that they don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. So, yeah, I could allow that to frustrate me. And in fact, if I did not understand at a visceral level that there is no strength in numbers, there is no herd mentality, right? There is no team. There's no, okay, I'm going to get on a team and we're all going to, bring home the big, bring the big win for the home team, right? Since none of that exists, it's irrelevant to me, right? Now, as a human, of course, I'm beholden to having some interaction with my fellow humans, certainly. Um, and again, if I wasn't getting something out of it, why would I bother, right? And I do like attention, and not so much lately, by the way, not so much lately, but historically, I've been complimented on my abilities as an orator, however that's pronounced, right? Um, but now, here of late, and again, I'm not entitled to this, I don't need it, but I've noticed it seems like the closer I get to the heart of the matter, the more resistance I encounter on the part of certain folks, and then, certainly less and less complimentary over time, which is fine. I'm a big boy, I can handle it, right? No big deal. No biggie. And what are you doing, people? And, ultimately, that's what, and especially as the more I am able to express, okay, let's be clear, the more frequently and regularly I do express via my creative force in a given moment my true nature, that's one with the most super intelligent force of love possible, I'm not able to be like, I'm not able to then, want to have certain types of attention, or to sort of prove prove myself, uh, to have, certain abilities, and sort of showing off and all of these things. Not that I mean, I still do that consistent with my essence, right? So the more often I'm hitting that goal of expressing my own essence, the less regularly I'm able to involve myself in, the trappings, again, interesting term, the trappings of this world, right? Trappings. It's a tarp. Back on 75, I don't know how that works, but I guess we are. I scrapping at 5. I guess because we're not going to Louisville. 71 South goes to Louisville. Louisville. So as the person with the channel and the person conducting the broadcast and delivering the discourse, I get to choose necessarily, what topics to focus on, what are the overall themes, the zeitgeist, as it were, while acknowledging that, each individual is free to, practice or not practice, or really to choose their own, way in life. Which way do they want to go? And again, my nature being one with the most super intelligent force of love possible, right? It's not capable of needing something specific, right, out of the folks around me. It's not able to grasp at those things. It's not able to have an expectation, at least not an expectation that would, line up with my preferences. So the fact is, and by the way, would also need to be based in logic and reason. I see no logical, rational, supportable reason why any of you would bother to embark upon these practices that I speak of. Right? Maybe, and again, I listen to all sorts of content that I'm not going to act upon, not directly anyway. I listen to all sorts of things that I'm not going to involve myself with. So I don't need the audience to throw down a gauntlet in the way I have. I don't need them to go full send and go all in and fully commit to a particular path that they will not waver from. Maybe the value of the channel is the audience says, well, we just like to listen to that type of person, and that type of person is rare as far as to actually find one who's doing all of that. So we'll just hang out and listen if you don't mind, and we'll make our stupid jokes from time to time. Okay, fine. That'll work. That'll work. Way station. 1 mile. Now this car says oversized load. Is the fucking oversized load catching up to us? Is that how slow we're going? Good Lord. What a mess. But, I think, can we face the reality that, whatever the majority of individuals are up to in their own lives, it's simply not good enough, right? That, society, or at least a community of so-called truthers, could have something of a minimum standard and say, anything below this minimum is just simply does not represent a good enough effort or even a good faith effort. And, sadly, when I interact with the majority of the so-called truthers, that's what I see is just, this is whatever this is, it's just not good enough. And then, what is it about me that has to strive to do better? Like, I have something in me, again, maybe it's my essence, that just, it has to strive for something greater. By the way, back to, if you want to go check out my timeline or my post tab uh, on my channel, John Wayne clipped part of a recent EBT stream. If y'all want to go listen to that, so I've been a lot of my recent points in the last couple of days have been tied into that, EBT's discourse there, or a snippet, like a 7-minute excerpt, right? And I did a live stream, I guess yesterday, titled "Gallows Humor," and then in parentheses, "How," right? And the how is really, how to get to the point of transcending the need for the gallows humor, right? Because to me, the gallows humor, it's not an acknowledgement, as EBT said, that, well, the Most High, or what he called God, has a sense of humor. Because EBT also wanted to refer to, basically saying we can all acknowledge that there's something outside of us that's a higher power, right? And I'm like, no, absolutely not. No, there's not. Because I found that power or force, and I found it inside of me. And in fact, the book that corresponds to the religion that EBT claims to practice says the same thing. The kingdom of God is within me, right? So where is it inside of me? Where is it not outside of me? But what is outside of me and also in this realm? Death and destruction and evil and the lowest forms of vibrational energy possible, right? Whereas in the previous live stream this morning, we got on the concept of a quickening spirit, and Christ is actually referred to as a quickening spirit in the Bible. And I, for the very first time, actually was on the stream for the first time. I had puzzled over what does this mean for many years, and I apprehended that concept, right, in the moment. And I would have to go back and listen to my own explanation. That's how fleeting some of this is, by the way. Hence the reason for the practices. That's why it's called practice in the first place, because whatever I practice so that I can, for a short time, grasp, a portion or the whole of like this otherwise ethereal concept. Well, after enough practice leading to enough grasping, and grasping isn't even right the proper term, but to experience what is otherwise ethereal. So the more times I experience that direct knowledge or that direct, again, experience, the more I have that experience, that will deepen my understanding, which is in part how we or I or these discourses have progressed. And by the way, you want to talk about a quickening spirit, look at how rapidly, uh, look at the rapid progress in the recent discourse. So, what we see along a timeline is, the level of the discourse could be relatively flat over time, and maybe it goes up a little bit, maybe it goes down a little bit, but then, it's like straight up here recently. And I'm talking about the actual level spiritually, because it is disjudgeable. We can judge the fruit, right? So the demonstration of the actual performance, demonstrating via performance and sort of showing off my ability to comprehend and break down all of these topics, and even receiving healing and deliverance yesterday and already today. By the way, we had an exorcism, the expulsion of wicked spirit or wicked spirits, via my throat chakra, by the way, live on stream. If anybody wants to go check that out, cough it out, right? I coughed it out or expelled, whatever that was. So then back to, if someone's willing to accept, okay, we know now, or I know now, where not to seek the so-called kingdom. So now, since I know where not to direct my efforts, so a big part of how I got to where I am now, and remember, we're not staying here. I'm not staying where I am now. I'm fully committed towards seeing this through up until my last moment, up until my dying breath, the last beating of my heart. Right. I'm committed to seeing this thing all the way through. This progression, my path is progress, to be of service, right? Service to my nature, by the way, in service of the expression of my true nature, is how I would term that. So now we know, okay, where our efforts cannot bear fruit. We know that. So now we're left with what? No pain, no gain. See, now we're left with uh, it's sort of counterintuitive, but the least comfortable place is inside of us when it comes to seeking. And what does the Bible say? Seek first the kingdom. And the Bible also says the kingdom of God is within you. So what in the world is the book trying to say, EBT? What is the book trying to tell you, sir? Seek ye first the kingdom. And then it also says the kingdom of God is within you, sir. So that almost to me seems like a directive to go within. A directive. And again, people are free to dismiss the Bible. People are free to say, well, that's nonsense. That doesn't apply to us. And I won't try to convince you otherwise. That's completely fine. But this is one of the reasons I enjoy addressing the Christians, because they want to run around and LARP as if they are following this book. And I get to point out aspect after aspect and way after way in which, well, in fact, no, you aren't. No, you are not following this book. Or they aren't, anyway, more correctly. No, you are not. And if old Benton's around, you can claim whatever you want. You're going to have to show your work. We're going to have to see them facts and figures. I'm going to have to see some mathematics. I'm going to have to see your performance. We're not going to talk the talk without walking the walk when old Benton's around. I can promise you that. That is not going to happen. That's for them other channels. That's for the panel channels to go loop for literal years on end, talking about spiritual matters. Yeah, you know what's a really effective means that I've observed of staying exactly where one is spiritually? Just go ahead and talk about spiritual matters day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year. Because what does that do? That tricks the mind into falsely believing, oh, well, I've done something to better myself. I've actually acted in the real world. No, you haven't. You ran your fucking mouth, not you, the listener, but they ran their fucking mouths and got nowhere spiritually, such that the condition is either the same or even worse. In the case of the man in the Bible who reformed himself, such that the wicked spirit left out of the man because the man had reformed and repented, right, and cleaned up his house. And just like we saw on the earlier stream, that spirit finally had enough of being encased in old Benton's energy sphere. That spirit wanted to hang out and bide its time and say, well, maybe he'll backslide into whatever incorrect activity is associated with whatever depraved, decadent, degenerate activity that spirit wants to experience, right? Via me, by the way, via me. And finally, it tapped out. It said, we've had enough of this. But so in the biblical story, what will happen is if I don't remain ever watchful and if I don't maintain all of these practices, at some point in the future, that same spirit, after wandering in the dry place, seeking rest and finding none, may very well say, well, I think I'll go back to my home where I left out of, right? Maybe I'll go back to my home where I left out of. And like in the story of the Bible, found the internal space was well swept and clean, meaning the man had reformed himself. But because now he's going back to those bad behaviors, then they said that the spirit entered back in, and brought 7 more, came with it, each more wicked than the last, so that the final state of the man was worse than where he started. Right? That's what this realm is. That's what this realm will do to me if I let it. And make no mistake, that's humanity. I just described humanity. Humanity at default is infested with demons. Humanity infested with motherfucking demons by default at a base level. That's what it is to be in this realm and to interact with your fellow humans and my fellow humans. Probably most of you listening, I hate to say it, but it's most likely the case. Most of you probably infested with demons. Sorry, just calling it like I see it. I hope not. By the way, again, if people don't believe the Bible, that's fine. But to the ones who think they believe in the Bible, Mary Magdalene, Jesus' right-hand woman in a way, when she first met Christ, he delivered her from 7 demons. He cast 7 demons out of her. Think about that. And then that's got to be symbolic on some level, I'm assuming. Right. The number 7. Whatever that connotes. Right. So now we're talking about the where to practice inside of ourselves, which is counterintuitively outside of our comfort zone. Right. And I'm only speaking from my experience. I'm not telling you anything I haven't myself done. I've absolutely gone into my internal space in a quite, in a lesser evolved form. And it sucks, man. It sucks to face what's actually going on inside of us, meaning individually, right? What's inside of me, or was inside of me. And then the deliverance it's the process of transcending what is within me that has limited me. So it's the transcending of the limitation via deliverance, right? Via what? The power of Christ Jesus, which is part of my testimony. That is my testimony, in part. To be delivered via transcendence. And my experience of transcendence is that when the transcendence occurs, I no longer experience those limitations unless I behave so incorrectly for long enough that I go back to an earlier version of that, an earlier condition, so-called backsliding. So it's also my job to behave in ways to prevent the possibility of backsliding. Right? Because in that biblical story, the man who was able to reform himself, he did not teach himself, and nobody else taught him to look out. Hey, you better look out, or the next thing you know, these spirits are going to come right back. See.
speak.
He wasn't on the watch. He wasn't looking out for that. See? And that's what created the possibility. If he had been watchful, probably wouldn't have been able to happen. So where I'm at is the pleasures of the flesh, the fleshly desires that I'm aware of, right? Which is, the forms that in the past I've been more predisposed to enjoying, right? Which is a preference. At this point, I cannot view those favorably any longer because I'm not able to experience them in a vacuum. I no longer have the luxury or the option of, having my fun, but without attaching that sensation or sense enjoyment is always for me attached to these spiritual precepts and concepts, right? So now what is the point of something like drunkenness? What is the point of, certain sexual acts, right? Like, what is the point? It's pointless. So it actually no longer, unless some sort of temptation occurs, the desire realistically simply no longer there, right? So now we get into, some of the more subtle hidden forms of wickedness, like maybe taking out my anger on another person, just certain things that can happen that may seem justifiable on some level, right? But that can never be consistent with my nature or essence or soul, which is one with the most super intelligent force of love possible. And that's not theory. That's not hypothesis. That's not a fake it till you make it. That's not a guess. That's what I know. That's what I have experienced and continue to experience. At least that's my how I would describe how I do describe it. Using the English language, by the way, which is already fraught with peril and has all sorts of confusion built right in. Right. Of course, we have folks who will whataboutism just that. They will whataboutism even that fairly basic concept of the confusion built into the English language. Right. There's realistically, there's no end to what some of these folks will whataboutism, which says way more about them and who they are, who and what they are, by the way. Because remember, every single one of us identifies in each moment with the most super intelligent force of love possible or its antithesis. So what are the folks I'm speaking of identified with the majority of the time? I'm pretty sure it ain't the former, and that leaves only the latter, right?
Reduce speed. Please reduce speed.
Fuck off, cunt. That wasn't the spirit of the most super intelligent force of love possible. Ha ha ha. I felt it too. And over time, my sensitivity to not behaving consistent with my true nature, I'm becoming way more sensitive to where even a small, arguably harmless saying that to what's not even a human I felt a little tingle in my tissues, a little bit of pain in a specific area, a sensitive area in my upper back and shoulder on the right side of my body. Upshift, downshift. This is going to be fun. How many times will this process repeat while I try to upshift, downshift while I'm trying to pass this truck? So this whole time I'm passing the truck. Upshift, downshift. The downshift is every time I manually press the button and make the transmission go right back to where it was. Still passing the truck. Upshift, not yet. Upshift, and I think now we're finally, we finally passed him and we're finally on a downhill. So that's just wear and tear on the transmission, by the way. Unnecessary wear and tear on the transmission, solely based on it being obsessed with fuel economy.
Reduce speed. Please reduce speed. Please reduce speed.
I'd be happy to, except we're cruising. We're in neutral, cruising at 5,000 RPMs to try to save fuel. That's why we're speeding, because the truck shifted itself into neutral instead of going 73 like I told it to go, which shuts up the woman.
Reduce speed.
So realistically, here's the answer to the whataboutism. No matter what the whataboutism is. Oh, that's dead. The answer to that question belongs to this realm of death and destruction, therefore is inconsistent with my true essence or nature. Therefore, it has no relevance to me. So I don't know. Go ask somebody who cares, because what I am is not capable of caring about that. What I am is not capable of being concerned with whatever the result of those whataboutisms would be. Yeah, those whataboutisms lead to death and destruction. Those whataboutisms are identified with this place. Those whataboutisms actually reinforce the system. So surprise, surprise, a human, another discrete human, seemingly, you know,
Please reduce speed.
with a psychology designed by the system, installed via the system to serve the system, is here whataboutisming things based on pretty please with sugar on top, Mr. Benton. Would you stop affirming your own nature, which is consistent with the most super intelligent force of love and creation possible at the highest level? And would you please listen to our whataboutisms so that you can become doubtful, so that enough doubt can be introduced that you will then reinforce the system? No, I won't. I was not sent to this place to do that. That's not my mission in this place. I can't know exactly why I'm here, but my purpose in this place is to be of service by, in each new moment, to the best of my ability, serving my true essence by allowing it to express, by the way, manifesting as a revolution. Because what is more revolutionary than love coming to town, the most super intelligent force of love possible at the highest level, and entering into the underworld of death and destruction and saying, here I am, you can't touch me, death. You can't touch me, destruction. You can't touch me, depravity. And then the realm will say, well, we did touch you though, didn't we? You did engage in those behaviors. Well, what I am, my essence can't be marred or stained by decadence. What I am can't be stained or marred by depravity and degeneracy. That ain't possible. It's It cannot be stained. It cannot be degenerated. Because if it can be degenerated, it never was what it claimed to be in the first place. See how it works? And my essence can never fear getting tricked or trapped or coerced, excuse me, into this realm of death and destruction, because my essence would know that no matter what, it is not capable of fearing that. All my essence can ever do is trust that if it does find itself in such a delusion, that it will be untouched, it will be unmarred. Otherwise, it's not what it claimed to be in the first place. And you know what we call that? I can't lose. That's a situation in which heads I win and tails I win. And heads, death loses, and tails, death loses. How about you? How about you? I might just stop here and get some fuel. I think it's time to grab my food. Probably be wrapping up, although I can't say for sure, but probably. Because, you know, sometimes I get a little worked up on here and, you know, I don't want to hamper my own digestive processes. So, yeah, I'm going to get out of here. Thanks for watching and listening. Bye.